And welcome back to the Aussie Screen Printers Club, the podcast that's aimed at least a little bit of talking about screen printing in Australia.
G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of the Aussie Screen Printers Club. Here with Sam, and it sounds like we've got a pretty cool episode for you today.
Yeah, I think today's will be a real nutcracker, by which I'm referring to Tchaikovsky, for all you listeners. Last week's was also awesome, getting an insight into Dark Label and how they rebranded and everything. But today I think it'll be very different. Yeah. So how was your week? You got a story, haven't you?
I do have a bit of a story. I've broken my hand, which is, as a manual printer, is a bit of a deal breaker.
Is it all plastered up? Let's have a look.
Yeah,
Oh,
they did a
mate.
good job of it.
What?
So,
Okay.
yeah, I wish it was like a cool fight story or something, but I was playing hockey and copped a ball in the hand and it's like smashed it all up. But they didn't get the goal, thankfully, but we still lost. But
Oh, wow. That's awful. And what have you actually broken? What bones?
so it's sort of like the knuckle end of my like rude finger on like the hand side. Um, so that's all like it's not just fractured, it's all like broken apart. So um, I'm not sure. I might have to get it operated on, but I'm only going to find out on Tuesday,
Wow.
which is rather inconvenient at this time of year.
What are you going to do? How are you going to print?
So now DTF's our best friend for a little bit because I'm the only one that can do it. So
Yeah.
um, luckily, we already had someone in the pipeline to come and help with production. Um, so she's going to start on the 13th. So not too long away. And then until then, it's just we've got Catherine, our graphic designers, been helping us, and we're just sort of limping along very slowly doing jobs, but it's not very efficient.
Oh, that's a shame. And how long might that go on for? How long till the hands fix? You just don't know.
I really don't know. That's the hard thing. I can't really plan anything yet, but I'd say it'd probably be a little while. I'm hoping they just say you're going to have a funny looking hand and we're just going to tape them together so I can hopefully use it a bit still, but I don't care what it looks like as long as it still works.
Yeah.
But I guess we just got to wait and see.
Wow, the perils of playing sport. Um,
Mm,
and the old hockey ball is pretty solid, isn't it? It's
yeah, he
yeah.
took a good shot at goal.
And
So
was it a deliberate thing? You tried to block or something, or you just were in the wrong space at the wrong time?
yes, it was a short corner, so my job is to pretty much stand in front of the ball. Um, but usually I try and avoid the ball and get it with my stick or something else, something softer.
Wow. That, that's right.
Mm.
I didn't even know you play hockey, but maybe you'll reconsider after that. I don't know.
I used to play in school, and this is the first year back since I've been out of school. It's like, oh, maybe I'll play a bit of sport and something outside of work. And here we are, like however many weeks into the season. So probably should have chose a less contact type sport, less dangerous one.
But was there a highlight for you this week as well? Because that was pretty, pardon the pun, but smashing.
Um, yeah, there's been a few times people have been like, "Oh, let me know if you need a hand." I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
I
kind of
do
handy.
actually." A bit of a highlight. The customers have been pretty good about any sort of like delays and stuff. Um, I've had a few decent jobs come through, some last minute stuff that's going to be interesting to try and squeeze in between everything. Um, but yeah, starting to kick off for that sort of end of financial type season
Mm,
with plenty of work. So hopefully we
mm.
can get Kate up to date pretty quickly. Um, she's got experience already, which is handy. Um, and then yeah, try and get as much work these next few months as we can.
Mm. And it's difficult that because a lot of your clientele or your clients are they're businesses, so they're wanting to offload any spare cash they've got, but
Mm.
floating it onto you, which obviously we want, right, as businesses. But you then have the issue of potentially making a profit, and they're trying to reduce their profits. They don't pay the government 25% extra for what seems like no reason at all. But then that becomes your problem. Do you, as a small business, try it like us, try and um, reduce your profit to get it level? Like, what's your strategy, or do you just let it roll over and pay your tax?
I think next year might be different, but this year it's been so like this week was our sort of 1 year anniversary going full time.
Yeah.
Um, so this financial year we've spent a lot of money. So I don't think we're going to have too much of an issue paying too much tax.
Mm.
But maybe next year, now that we've sort of mostly got all the equipment and stuff
Mm.
we need, we'll probably have to think about that a little bit more in
Mm.
advance.
My advice on that is to start thinking early, even in
Hmm.
January or earlier if necessary, because it usually means big, depending on how much money you've got, obviously, but bigger purchases or at least capital type purchases. Um, and that can take a lot of planning and timing. Even if you don't get the kit till Christmas or something, you still need to get that invoice in and running. Um, so yeah, do a bit of planning on that. I think I gave him the wrong number. Um, should be all right now. Have you ever accidentally joined the wrong video conference?
Not yet.
I
It'd be a
did.
funny one though.
Yeah, in
Oh, really?
2000. Yeah, like back in the early 2000s, joining a conference call. And I typed back then it wasn't Zoom, it was Skype, and there's a big
Mm.
Cisco system. And I typed in the wrong key code, and I guess there wasn't a passcode. And it put me
Mm.
in, and I was like, I don't recognize any of these people, but it's like 30 people there. And I was like,
Yeah.
I just keep quiet until, pick up the thread of the conversation. And you're not going to believe this. It was actually the police. It was a police,
Wow.
yeah, some police executive meeting. And I thought, I need to really come
Hmm.
clean here and say, guys, I'm really sorry, but your security's crap. And I'm in I'm nothing to do with you. I was doing
I'm
something
not
with
trying to be in there.
I was working with the state government in the UK, and so it was just very strange.
It's
Okay,
amazing.
well, my week was pretty dull, which was kind of good. Nothing
Hmm.
major happened that was super positive or super negative. Um, and one thing that actually was super positive is that we made our target. We what's the word? Exceeded our target in revenue, which was nice. And my colleague came back she was very sick for about a week and a half. So it's kind of nice to
Mm.
have her back because for us, we've got obviously different email accounts. And because of how it is when you're trying to go through a mock up and get a quote, and there's this kind of discourse that goes back and forwards often quite a lot with some customers. I didn't want that all to come from me, basically
Mhm.
take her work and make it my email. So I was sort
Yeah.
of trying to email from her account.
Uh,
And about halfway through, my brain split in half, and I was so confused. And anyway, it was good to have her back to pick up all of that sort of stuff. Um, all right. Well, our special guest is here. You ready to get them in? It's
Sounds good.
let's do that.
Oh, that didn't take hard work, did it?
There we go.
Given that
Hey,
we're back,
Josh, how are
G'day, Jason.
you? Yeah, it's a bloody technology gets away from me a little bit, eh?
like all of us, mate, for sure. Um,
Anyway,
how's things going? How was your week?
my week was fairly good, thanks. Didn't make a lot of money, but took a lot of orders and ordered a lot of shirts. So,
Oh, that's good.
it means next week's going to be busy. I spent the week burning screens and doing artwork and a few fiddling jobs, but that that's my life at the moment. It's a small business, and what walks in the door is what I get.
Yeah.
So,
So do you kind of cue things up, like you spend a day doing screens or reclaiming or doing artwork, or do you just do a bit of everything every day?
I like to get screens done first thing in the morning or last thing in the afternoon, depending on um, what I've got on. Get the screens in the cupboard and hardened for the next morning, sort of thing.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm pretty flexible with it. If I've got a big print job, I like to have that set up early and get that done because it gets warm about 10 or 11. I'm using water-based.
Oh, wow. Okay.
North Queensland and water-based, it's tricky.
Yeah.
So,
You're a little bit
um,
more humid though, right? You're not so close to the coast, are you? You're a little bit inland now, I think about it.
yeah, up in the hills a bit. So it's dairy country, so it's wet,
Yeah,
which is
right.
good.
Yep.
We've had drizzle for 6 months and it's beautiful. Great printing weather, eh? No one else likes it, but I'm fairly happy with it.
I quite like it. I like it as long as it's not freezing cold, which it is at the moment. So you decided to use water base, or do you do a bit of
Yeah,
plasticine as well?
I learnt screen printing in prison, and water-based is what they used. So
Okay.
that's what I like. I didn't have any experience with plastisol. Like they're pretty keen to keep thinners and terps and all that sort of things out of our hands. So if it's water-based, that's what that's what it was. And yeah, I like it. I used a bit of plastisol in cans.
Yeah.
I had a week or two down there with a bloke, but it was a 3 hour drive round trip for 4 hours of work, and it was not great. But that was my experience of plastisol, and I don't like it as much as water based.
Yeah, okay. That's cool. Right. Now we're getting into um the detail, which is great. But let's get back. Who are you? I know who you are, but who are you? Where you from? And tell us a bit about your business there as well.
My name's Jason Batchelor. I'm the owner of Shed 76 screen printing. And that's all it is. A little bit of DTF, but I learnt screen printing in prison. I was in jail for a bit over 20 years. And they had a screen printing shop there, and it was fairly interesting.
Yeah.
Initially, it was there was a bikie group that were doing most of the screen printing in there, and I
Mhm.
didn't partake in it much, but I liked it, and I was always a fan of screen printing. Screen printing from the Mambo days when you had the poo shooter dog and all that, fairly inspirational when we were kids. And there was a screen printing shop in Cairns many years ago called Shark Attack. Used to have, well, that was the late 80s, mid 80s. And I used to like their stuff because it was all koalas hanging out of trees with mole leaves and how much can a koala bear and all that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it always struck me as being a great vehicle to express contrary opinions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's speaking without speaking.
yeah, like you can express a viewpoint and hopefully people will engage with it and those that buy your shirts support the viewpoint or have a little bit of anarchy in them and want to shake things up a little bit or
Mm.
at least say something in with their choice of what they wear.
Yeah,
So that's what
absolutely.
appeals to me.
I like it. Now, hang on a
But
second. Hang on a second.
yeah,
So, prison for 20 years.
hmm.
You learned screen printing in prison. Was that something that was on offer the whole time, or just a particular period of your time there, or how did that? Like, is that something that's just on offer to inmates, or?
No, not like they've got it was a northern jail in Queensland, and this particular jail has a screen printing shop. Like there was a tailor shop where they made garments, and they used to make tarps and tents and dryers of bones and all sorts of things for people from the community. Like we made dryers of bones in 2001 for a mine in New Guinea, hundreds of bloody dryers of bones.
Wow.
So screen printing shop used to screen print for the community because there was nothing up here. And I don't know how it initially came about because it was in place when I got there.
Was that actually in
But
the prison, or was that you'd go
yeah,
out? Yeah.
no,
Wow.
it was a prison industry.
Wow.
But
And
yeah, sorry. Hey,
I
Josh.
was, I was just going to say, what kind of equipment did they have? Like the whole thing?
Initially a Gilrose 4x4, and water-based sinks and tunnel dryer and exposure unit and
Yeah, right.
just a small low-tech screen printing shop.
Full kit, really.
Yeah, like they were doing fairly good screen printing out of that shop,
Yeah, yeah.
and they had some really impressive artists there. The artworks was, I don't know if you remember the old magazines, the Fixed Posts and whatever. They used to have the Adamoga pub art,
Right.
the comic art. And
Yeah.
we had an artist in there that used to do a lot of really great comic art design work for the local businesses, like the local golf clubs and the local hotels everywhere. He'd do all these really great caricatures of their venues and that, and we'd put them onto shirts, or the jail would put them onto shirts.
Wow.
So,
And so when you finished your time, what's the strategy for you to come out and do screen printing, or was it just an idea, or did you not think about it? Like, how did that come around?
like I was sentenced to 20 years in prison, and initially you sit there with that. It's a life sentence with the bottom of 20, which means a non-parole period of 20. So initially when you're sentenced, you can't see any light at the end of the tunnel, but by about 5 years into it, I'd begun painting, and I thought, well, I might make it to the end of this. I better figure out what I'm going to do when I get out, because I went in at 32 and my earliest release was at 52. So I started doing art and those sort of things, and then changed jails again, and ended up at a jail in Ipswich, Queensland,
Yep.
called Barallan. And while I was there, I enrolled in a fine art degree through Curtin University in Western Australia. They have a program for incarcerated men to study fine arts. So I started that by correspondence in 2009, I think. And while I was doing that, the brand FC UK came out in about 2010. It caused such a furor in the media that it's so disgusting and rude and all that sort of thing. And I was living in a place called C Unit in this particular jail. One of the units was there was C units, for 6 C units. And I thought, well, if they think that FC UK is offensive, C Unit, the context of it is similar to what CU in the NT is. You just read, you could read it like that.
The inn is really small, isn't it?
The I is really small.
Oh, the I, right? Okay, of course, the I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything's uppercase except for the I. So, and that's where I thought, well, gee, that's offensive, and I could run that. And that's where I decided that I wanted to get out and start this brand. And that was 10 years prior to my release, or my earliest release. So I had the thoughts that I would go back to Lotus Glen Jail in North Queensland and learn screen printing there and print shirts with that on the front of them and make millions.
Yeah, right.
And so that's what I worked toward. So I ended up another year or two in that jail, and then Townsville jail. I went there for a year or two, or a couple of years there, and found my way back to Lotus Glen in 2014, I think. And that was, and got a job in the screen printing shop there initially, but with the view of learning to screen print and get out and set up screen printing. But during my time in prison, like, you get paid for working in industries, and initially I could get $66 a week with an amenities allowance, which is what you get for your toothbrush and all that bit. Everyone gets that, $15. And then you work and you'll get another $51 if you get top dollar. You're the big man in the industry. I managed to get that for 2 years at the start of my sentence and never saw it again.
All right.
But so $55 was the top dollar I could make. And out of that, I tried to save $40 a week. And that's $2,000 a year, which isn't very much. But if you do it for enough years, it
That's
stacks.
Yeah.
So, and I had a little bit of other cash available to me. Yeah, so that's how I started screen printing. I ended up in the screen printing shop at Lotus and didn't get on with the bloke who was running it, like inmate that was managing it at the time. So I ended up out of it for a bit, then went back to it. And I ended up getting a couple of years there playing in their shop.
That was with Plastisol.
No, that was water-based.
That was water-based as well. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that was, and I thought I knew how to screen print, and obviously I didn't, because there's a whole heap of stuff that you can't know, teaching yourself. But yeah, it was good fun. I like screen printing. It's good to be. It's creative, and if you get it right, like looking at the shirts behind you, it's just it's beautiful art.
It is.
So yeah, that's how I came to it really, and saved, and when I was released, I straight into it.
So you got released. You had some good money in the bank, and you knew you wanted to do screen printing.
Yes. So I put myself into a cheap rental shed in Atherton, North Queensland, where my father was. I was released to his place on parole. And like I think everyone thought I was crazy because, gee whiz, I've never seen anything through before ever. And it's like 20 years in the nick sort of gives you time to have a little look at yourself and assess what your strengths and weaknesses are and get some direction in your life. I used to be a fairly drunk, violent sort of man. I don't drink and steer clear of the violence. So it's just, I'm on track with keeping things together. And, yeah. So yeah, found myself a shed and got on chasing around in January of 2022, and COVID was still going on and you couldn't get anything into the country.
Yeah.
Howard at Leapfrog Machinery had the only carousel that I could buy, and that was Vastex 6x4.
Yep.
And
So
I would have preferred six colour 4 platinums.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have liked the 6x6, but that's what I was used to at the jail. I just like I couldn't understand why you only have 4 platinums, but anyway, that's what was available. Yeah, you just run with what's available, eh?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But good press.
Yeah, really nice. Like the micro registration, I hadn't seen that before, and I use it consistently. Just great.
Yeah.
It's accurate, and it just does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Just makes life easy.
It's a very solid press, isn't it? We've got one as well, and they're really solid.
Yeah, you said yours was an 8x8, so
an 8.8, yeah. It wasn't.
Yeah,
it was a 4.4. Was it a 4.4 or a 6.4? I think it was a 4.4, and we upgraded it to an 8.8. Yeah.
All right.
It just gets too big after a while, like because I think you can go to a 10 color on that press. I've seen people doing all heads down printing, where they put 10 people around the press. And so it comes off. Yeah, it comes off. It's a bit like an auto, but you need 10 people, which isn't great. But you can run all those heads down and print pretty well. Not that I've ever done that, but they are good. I like them. They're very solid.
Yeah, like one of the arms hangs a little bit low, so the off contact is good on 3 platinums, but I don't know what I need to do. I need to run a bead of weld on something and file it back to get just where the arms bolt into the actual
The
frame.
arms a bit lower.
Yeah,
a lot.
Actually, one's a bit higher. I'll be only a couple of mil, but that's me off contact. Like I don't use a lot of off contact.
You can adjust just the actual platen. So if the arm's out a little bit, the platens have got these.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and you can actually
right.
yeah, because they tend to be like all presses, it comes down to finalizing on the platen. So you can adjust
Yeah, you're
that.
right on that. You're a bloody wonder, Sam. Thank you.
I'll pop up and do it for you.
Oh,
Only take
no,
me a
I just want
2-day
the
drive.
mechanical side of it. Just the advice is handy. But
Yeah. Yeah, no,
yeah.
you can
So
do
you,
that. That's good.
you've been using your 8x8 at all, or?
I haven't used it for, well, the problem I'd like to is the answer. I haven't used it for ages simply because we can't fit it in our shed anymore. When we got the auto, we kept it here. And then when for us, when May, June, July comes around, we get pallet after pallet coming in, and you just cannot move. So we broke it down and put it in storage. But I really miss it. We have another 4-color manual here, which we wheel around, which has its own oven sort of underneath it, which is kind of neat.
No.
Um, and that works, but it's got no micro reg. It's, it won't hold a reg very well, that press. So we're hoping to move this year. And one of the things I'm keen to do is just get that manual back out, because I don't print anymore. And if I try to, I get told not to, which is fine. I, to be blunt, I probably don't know how to manage the auto very well, but I love manual screen printing. And
Yeah.
so I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I can do my own little projects and things. Probably get told off, but yeah,
That's right. You're the
that'll
boss.
become my press when I get it back. Yeah.
You're
So
the king. You can do what you want.
that's right. Yeah. I'll try that out, see what people say. My daughter, one of my daughters owns the shop with me, and so anything that happens in production is her purview. And if I try and do anything out there, she's like, "What are you doing? Get out here." But yeah, I'm keen to get it back because I do miss it, and I actually love that press. Um, done so many different prints, but one of the things, without digressing too much, we miss moving to an autos on a manual at night. I think you were kind of saying things like this. We'd set the press up for the next day.
Yep.
And it might be that you've got one 2-color, one 3-color, and the others are single colors. So you've got a ton of jobs set up on the actual press. So
Yeah.
there's, your tearing down can happen at lunchtime or the end of the day, or whenever you finish that set. You could just keep printing. And, with an auto, you can't, right? You got to stop, tear everything down, get the ink out, put everything back in, re-register it, and so on. So I miss that. That was really cool. The one thing I don't miss is the physical exertion, though. It's pretty intense. You're probably really fit now, but it took me a
I'm
while.
back to killing me.
Yeah. Do you get like elbow and shoulder and those kind of issues?
Elbows were killing me when I first got out, but that was bad technique.
Yeah.
And I modified what I was doing, like had my elbows out, and that just puts strain on your elbows crossways instead of bloody keep your elbows into your waist. And
Yep.
elbows bend one way, they don't bend sideways. Don't put stress on them sideways, eh? But
Well,
yeah, initially.
on the subject of physical ability, I think Josh has got a bit of a confession to make, which you're probably not aware of, Jason.
What have you done yourself, Josh?
Yeah, I'm not doing any printing at the moment.
Wow. Are you running a screen printing shop up there, or paper printing, or cards, or what sort of printing work are you doing?
It's mainly screen printing and embroidery. We do outsource and do a bit of like promo type stuff.
Yeah.
Do a bit more DTF, and especially now we're doing a lot more DTF now. I can't print.
What have you bloody done, and how long are you down for?
I'm not sure how long I'm down for. I broke my hand on the weekend playing hockey. I
Oh,
copped a ball and smashed all up, but we'll find out on Tuesday how long that gets me out for. But we'll make it work slowly but surely. Get jobs done until we're back on the road.
So even single
and
color you'll have to do on DTF, is that? Yeah. You can't get someone
Yeah.
in just to, do the actual physical printing. I know that it's an art, but just on single colors or something, you can't just get them,
Mm,
whatever.
I have. It's been a bit of, yeah, this week has been like a bit of a, I don't know what we're just trying to think of a bit of a plan of how we're gonna do things. Um, I could get someone in probably just to just pull the squeegee pretty much, or even that's probably not. It's not terribly hard to teach. Like I'll just be there for everything else. Um, but yeah, I'm sort of leaning towards maybe we just, if the customer's fine with it, DTF it, and then at least that's sort of I can work on other stuff instead of just standing there and watching
Mm,
someone print. Pretty much,
mm.
I'm not
Suppose if
sure
you
yet.
get like a big run of small left chests or something, you could
That
get
I could
someone
do
to
that.
just, yeah. Or you could even do
Yeah,
it one-handed. I don't know if that's
yeah,
possible, but yeah, probably manage that. Oh man. But it
It's a
shows
problem
you
being
kind of
bloody.
how dependent we are on ourselves, right? Like to run the
mhm,
business and
Yeah,
to be able to print and to do everything really. Something goes wrong, it affects everything.
yeah,
yeah.
it's a problem.
It makes you realize how sort of vulnerable you are at like a small size to any issues. You sort of want to have a good buffer, or it sort of really encourages you to have a few more people to sort of bit cross trained
Mm,
to do that sort of thing if something does happen to anyone.
mm, mm, yeah. So Jason, just going back to when you got out, which must have been amazing. You had all that, done a degree in fine art, you'd learned
Yeah.
how to screen print and in a commercial environment, not just a kind of, that had commercial application. Was there any like, and you had this money and to get set up and you spoke to Howard, I suppose, um, Howard, we give you a little shout out there, mate, Leapfrog Machinery. Um, you're the go-to place, certainly for secondhand machinery and Anatole and Vastex. They're a Vastex supplier, aren't they? So
Yeah.
good on you, Howard. But Jason, was there any sort of grants or anything you could get from government as well to kind of get you moving, or was that just a no?
No, like there's a scheme called NEIS, which is a new enterprise incentive scheme that will fund your dole for 9 months and not expect you to participate in the process, and you can make what you want on top of that. But I attended a job fair with a fairly nasty shirt that I'd printed that was fairly offensive at a whole heap of levels. Um, and the lady remembered me when I fronted her to see about this NUS. She said, "You will bring our scheme into disrepute."
Oh, okay,
And
right.
so I received Social Security for the first 6 months after I was released, and that was all that I've received with the government. I received the dole for 6 months,
Yeah.
and so pretty well on my own and fairly happy with that. Like I have no desire to engage with government bureaucracy at any level if I can avoid it, because I've had 20 years of being scrutinised, and so
Yeah,
I'm happily freelancing and broke and struggling constantly, and that's just life.
yeah, sure.
But I report to my parole officer as required, and other than that, I have no interaction with
But it's
except the tax department.
yeah, yeah, we all have that one.
Mm,
It's an amazing story, though, isn't it? I mean, I don't want to blow smoke or embarrass you, but to come out to learn those trades and to come out and become an entrepreneur and to start something like this and to push it forward is amazing, mate. It's commendable
Mm.
and it's exciting.
fun.
And you're in an art world, and like you're a painter as well, so
Yeah.
it marries those two things together really well.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Like I figured out I'm a better person sober. I can keep my shit together and keep focused, and that's what I learned in jail. And
Mm,
like jail probably was what was good for me at the end of it. Like I came out better for the experience.
mm,
I'd been drunk and dead somewhere if I didn't.
sure.
So yeah, just interesting. Like there's the opportunities in there aren't easy to take. You've got to make them yourself. Like
You're
there's
right.
nothing in there that's handed to you. To get my art degree done took me 8 years to do a 3-year degree. But I was
Mm.
moving jails and poor circumstances at different places and that sort of thing, and had to push really hard and create outcomes for myself to get things done because it's not, they don't, you get support if you work really hard at it and you create people that want to support you. But if you expect people just to support you on the basis that it's their job, it's not going to happen.
Mm.
Like they've got to have, you've got to create a belief in yourself with these people to get the support you need to get anything over the line. And that's life as well, I guess.
I
Like
wish you could
inside and out.
tell that to the younger generation. You know, you've come out of prison into a woke, generation that all they care
I don't
about is
understand
right.
woke.
You don't understand it.
What?
None of us understand it.
No, I don't understand the term. What's woke?
A woke refers to, as comes out, it's a kind of it's derisive term, really, isn't it? But it comes out of America. America had this thing in the 1700s known as the Great Awakening.
Yeah.
And, in the 2020s, we have this thing called the Great Awakening. And it's this
Oh.
idea that there's these transient, young 18 to 30 now, I guess. Sorry, Josh, I guess that's your age. Group of people that think they deserve rights. They have rights to everything.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what their kind of issue is or their platform is, they demand rights. And
Sense of entitlement.
yes, exactly that. And I guess
Mhm.
that's exactly what wokeism is. It's a sense of entitlement, but a protestation, actually protesting about the need for their rights at the expense, by the way, of everyone else's rights.
I don't mind it
Okay.
because of it. There's space in the world for me, and there's space in the world for
Yeah.
you, and space in the
Yeah.
world for Josh. Because
Yeah.
if everyone was participating at the level we're participating, it'd be a busy place.
Absolutely. And I think the problem is, without getting political, but the wokeists uh, don't care about our entitlements. It's only their entitlements. You see what I mean? It becomes prohibitive. But that philosophy or that ideology didn't exist when you went inside, but you come out in a
No,
different culture. I think Facebook didn't exist.
no,
No.
no. Facebook, Instagram, all that, and the level of political correctness and the need to be offended on everyone else's behalf.
Yes.
Like
Mm.
I'm not offended on my behalf, but you'll offend someone else over there for sure. So you best not do that. And that's just everywhere. And it's just crazy. But anyway, like I said, I'm happy to see the world in the state it's in because I got young tradespeople that come in to get their shirts printed, and I just say to them, well, "You've got the gold ticket. Like
Yeah.
you're the ones that are actually people don't want to do apprenticeships anymore because they've got to take a low wage and they've got to put 4 years of grind in. And these young tradesmen, there's not enough tradesmen to do the work anymore. Like there's not enough, like I said, like us three doing our business, we're achieving, we're manufacturing. Like that's not happening in Australia at a great level anymore.
That's right.
And the generations
Mm.
coming through, they're not participating in those processes.
Mm.
So what the future is for them and the country, I don't know. But the future for us that are actually working and creating, well, our future is looking rosy
Mm.
because we're a diminishing group of people.
Yeah, it's a sad fact of modernity, isn't it? That people um, don't want to kind of. I'm from Scotland, but we have that phrase of grabbing the thistle. They don't want to, or
Yeah.
seizing the day, or whatever you want to say. It's sort of gone. Um, but I think there's a place, particularly, with your story, to inspire other people to do that. Like you said, the way you speak to the tradies to encourage them. And your story's got real power behind it, that pushes into culture and says, no, actually, you can do this. You got to make your opportunity, as you said. And
Mm.
anyone can do this that's able and has that spark and, seizes the day. And I think it's a good story to kind of share and to push and to, even develop brand around in a positive way, in a genuine way. I think you got something that I haven't got. Like you said,
Yeah,
it was
well, the problem is I'm developing brand in a dark corner. My brand is dark and anarchy, and it's just like I'm still speaking to the bogans of time gone by, and I'm just lost in that bloody time warp. So
still a market
yeah,
though, right?
I haven't figured out social media and marketing yet. Like I'm just battling with all that. But I
Yeah.
look what you do on social media and that, and look what you do with this podcast, and it's effective. And I guess it creates business. Like all my business is walk in the door business. Your business would be a portion of online, I'd imagine.
For me,
Yeah.
yeah, 90%, maybe a bit more is online. We're in a
Wow.
small town, very small town here. I don't know how big Atherton is.
Oh, I know it's tiny compared to Armidale.
Oh, okay.
We're 6,000 people.
All right. We've got 20,000 on you. I think Toowoomba's probably 40,000, is it, Josh?
Yeah, it's a bit bigger. I think it might even be bigger than that. Yeah.
A nice regional centre though, eh? Like you got the
Mm.
Western Downs and all that sort of thing. Like fairly, yeah, good central place.
Yeah, it's sort of the main one for anything west, pretty much.
Not too far from Brizzy either. That's the other real benefit
Yeah,
of traffic that way. So we do a lot online. So it's national. But we do get a bit of footfall come in, but they tend to be for very small orders. Like people
yeah,
come in for one, and we just can't cater for that kind of thing. We'd like to, and we always think of ways of trying to help people, but it doesn't always work for us. And it's true, the social media is definitely, it's the way to get out there, but we also spend quite a bit on advertising. And I think that's
yeah,
a thing that a lot of people don't realize is, I think we've got something like 15,000 people on Instagram. Most of them are screen printers.
yeah.
Like you're not going to sell to a screen printer. You know what I mean? There's a limit, right? So, and
Digitizers.
yeah, that's right. Then you've got all the digitizers sending you. They do that. They think they're so clever, don't they? They send you a message. Hey, have you got a minute? No,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
So we do a lot of advertising in the sense of spending dollars. We don't use Google, although probably should. But we basically advertise through Facebook, through Meta, which pushes most of its adverts by target marketing, by physical location, giving away all our marketing secrets, but it's good. Um,
nice.
so we hit the big cities. We try to do a lot in New South Wales, but most of our custom is in Victoria.
Yeah,
No matter how
wow.
yeah, it's just very strange. Um, do an awful lot in South Australia and a ridiculous amount in WA. And sometimes we phone those customers and say, look, are you aware there's some really good screen printers in your town? Yeah, but we still want to use you. Okay, well, it'll take a week longer and it'll cost more to get there. But so anyway, digression. So we do a lot of
No, no.
advertising. We spend quite a bit of money on advertising, but the returns are good. And obviously we hit given markets as well. So we target market with Meta, which is a real gift.
Yeah,
The only other thing we do is have email campaigns. So I think we've got 36,000 email contacts that we send out our special deals to, and we get a lot of sales that way. So it's doable. Like you don't have to have
mm,
15,000 people on Instagram, just have to have a presence and use it to showcase your prints and who you are and everything. To make it
yeah,
organic and interactive, I think is, to get people talking, rather than
yeah.
just pictures of people printing. Um, but oh, sorry, I've just set that off by mistake. Um, so yeah, but we've dropped off massively because we had someone that did all the social media who had a baby, who had a second baby, and just had to give up. And so it sort of fell back to me, which means we stopped. But it's not hard to get going in that. I think just getting some guidance and finding ways to get to market and put things online. You got a website with a form, right?
No, I've got a really cheap website that I made myself, and all it's got is my location, picture of the shed and my location.
Yep.
And I don't know how much I can do by myself. Like this week, I've been sort of busy and didn't make a lot of money because I was busy dealing with customers and ordering and just digitizing and all the bits and pieces that go with it. Like
Yep.
next week when I print shirts, I'll make money.
Yep.
So it's finding a balance. Like I'm not very efficient with my time yet.
Right.
I could be a lot more efficient with what I do. It's figuring out how to do that and keeping focused and not scatterbrained, which
Yep.
is not a real problem, but it sort of is.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a whole heap of things going on, Sam, that just challenging. Are you on your own, Josh, with your business, or?
I've got one other person working with me. She does the graphic design and ordering side. And then on the 13th, we have someone helping with production. But I know exactly what it's like with you sort of, for me, that's what I've been trying to work on is you sort of have these waves of sort of the money coming in, like when you're not as busy doing production or working on other stuff, then you can get back to people quicker and make those sales easier. And then you get busy again, and then your sort of sales drop. So that's, yeah, it's sort of like that, try and flatten that wave as much as possible, but it is hard. And especially like growing, it's just extra costs without necessarily making extra money for a bit.
Yeah, yeah, it's just challenging to managing people when they come in the door because they all want a little bit of your time. But the time you give
Mhm.
everyone a little bit of your time, you haven't made any bloody money. You've just talked a lot.
Mm.
So,
Love having a chat, eh?
ah, and it's good because like January is quiet for me. It has been for the last 2 years. Um, and when someone comes in January, a bloke came in and he did a shirt up behind me up there, and I showed him how to print his shirt. Like it's a process print for CYMK process printing, and he learnt to screen print. He printed his own shirts,
Wow.
and I enjoy that sort of thing because it was just I had the time on my hands, and so, but then you get to now I'm busy. I haven't got time for this fart ass around. I just need to get in and get some work done, please. So that's the way of it, really, isn't it? You manual printing or
I am, yeah.
yeah? So it's good fun. Like just good fun printing out. I think with your hand and that. I was doing jiu-jitsu at the local one of my customers' gyms, and I was getting a bit sore and potential for a shoulder to pop here and there because
Hmm.
it's a fun and hectic sort of sport. And if I have a pop shoulder, I've got 6 weeks off. I can't do anything. I'm broke.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so, and that was just the realization I came to, and the hand reinforces that decision
Yep.
because
It's definitely, it's a bit scary sometimes. Knowing that
yeah,
it's all on you. If something happens, you've still got bills and everything coming out.
Yeah.
well, the past 18 months, I have been gently sliding backwards up until the start of this year. And this year it's turned around. Like um, this year, people have found me or decided that the product's standing up and the service is good and the customers are coming. But
Mm.
it took me 18 months to get the business to that stage where um, I'm starting to grow as opposed to just hanging on and waiting for people to discover me.
Mm. Mm.
So,
So do you get like you starting to get recurring customers coming back for more and more? Because that's a really
yeah,
good sign, right? That's the really
yeah,
sign that things are healthy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of my customers are recurring customers, which is good. AS Colour provides great shirts.
Do
I think
you?
they don't wear out quicker.
Yeah. Switch to another
uh,
brand.
yeah, I printed another brand the other day, and I thought, oh, gee whiz, I don't like this. Um, so customer bought in a box of an alternate brand. It used to be a big brand, and they're trying to get traction again, but the quality was just crap and just not very nice to print on, and just the stitch sewing wasn't good.
Yeah.
AS Colour is just a nice brand to print. Like, they provide a good product. They provide a great services, which I enjoy.
Yep.
I started with Biz Collection, and it's a pretty nice product too, but the service, their mail out service isn't as efficient, I don't think.
Right.
Uh,
Where are they based, Biz Collection?
Don't know. Like, I put in an order. Like, I was going to do this C unit stuff, and I bought, I don't know how many 100 shirts, and boxes came from all over the country in all different directions, in dribs and drabs. And I just thought, well, it was just like, it was a fairly big order, a few hundred shirts. And I printed all these bad shirts that I don't know what I'm going to do with. I can't sell them. That was the first 6 months. And I decided, well, I better start printing for other people, because I'm not going to make any money printing bad bogan shirts, because although people find them funny, my demographic has no money. So,
Yeah, right. Gotcha.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know how to market them, and the people that I'm trying to market them to aren't interested in spending any money on t-shirts. Really great shirts, love to wear them, but not going to pay for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It is difficult. We've tried a few clothing brands, and Josh, you've got a clothing brand as well, but the energy required to get the sale, and it might just be at the end of it, 1 or 2 garments, is so immense.
Yeah.
But I love that people can do their own brand. Like, obviously we're screen printers. It's great for us, but that somebody who doesn't know anything about this industry can actually start a clothing brand. I think that's amazing, and tell their story and get their brand out there, and try and make some money. I think that's pretty cool. Just going back to that thing about growth though, time management and getting kind of called away because a customer comes in and wants to talk to you about, how it all works or whatever. We actually try not to give people tours here, but if I get excited, someone's interested, I wander around and can see everybody rolling their eyes in the factory. But what I've noticed, because this is my first go at anything in the manufacturing industry, is that there's this sort of ratio of pressure. So you're set up, you've got your kit, you know how to print, you can handle, every kind of print from sim process down to single colors, and the custom is coming, and then you're spread thin because you've got to do the sales, you've got to do the artwork, you've got to do the printing, you've got to do the dispatch, you've got to do the customer care. But those areas, in my limited experience, grow at different rates. So the bigger you get, the more complex the artwork gets, generally.
Yep.
So because you can do it, whereas before you couldn't. So there's more effort doing the artwork. So you maybe look at outsourcing, and but the point I'm getting at is that as things start to get to a point where necessity drives invention, right? That kind of cliche, some mother of invention. That's when all the good business decisions start to happen. Because, for example, if I had 10 people a day coming in and chatting to me about screen printing, my business model's wrong, because I need to slow that down to make sure I'm printing more, right? If I was doing that side of it. So how do I adjust the business model to prohibit too many people coming in and chatting, to enable that necessity of quantity of shirts to print, let's say, growing to a point where I go, now I'm at that level, I need someone else to do this. And this could be the artwork, the sales, the screen printing, whatever it is. And I think it's managing that and looking out for it and saying, right, this is the bit that needs to grow. Now, I'll give this away because I think it's really true. For us, and I was never on my own in the sense that I always had my daughter, which was a huge help.
Yep.
And she did I wouldn't say half of the stuff I did, but certainly, you know, good 40% of it, we started to realize that dilemma that I'm describing and worked out that the number one goal to be able to manage growth at that point was to make sure that press was spinning 4 or 5 hours a day. Because at that point, we're earning enough money to say, we need a better dryer, we can afford it, or we need a better exposure unit, we can afford it, or we need to get someone else to do this. And eventually that was where we went. We got someone else to do the actual physical printing. Suddenly I was released, right? But how do we get there? What was the thing that turned that switch that said, right, open the floodgates on getting enough work to keep that press spinning for 4 or 5 hours a day? And do you know what it was? It was increasing our minimum order quantity. That's all it was. And we went from, I think our minimum was maybe 8 initially, then 12, and then 15, then 16, and now it sits at 20, but we try to upsell to like 50, 56 is our kind of next threshold. And the reason that worked, I think, was because it said to all of those people that came through the front door or came online and said, I only got 2 of these, or I only want 3 of these. It's an absolute no, unless we get to 20. And so you're faced with 2 potential answers. One is, well, I'll have 20, in which case suddenly the press was spinning for longer. You follow me? Or, no, sorry, I don't want that. And so that problem went away. So that's how we did it. We just said, no, minimum order quantity is the thing that's going to make the change here. I didn't ask them, sorry, I'm going on a bit here, but I feel like this is hopefully helpful. But Dark Label last week, I think their minimum's like 60. It's really high.
So yeah, something like that.
Yeah, they've obviously got that worked out. Sorry, Jason, you got someone you need to talk to as a customer.
I have got a customer, sorry.
Well, I'm going to take a pee break. How's that?
All right.
All right.
Thank you. I'm sorry
break
about that. I'm sorry.
It's all good. No problem.
A few moments later.
Oh. Sorry about that, Sam.
Oh, that's all right. Don't worry. It's good. As you got a customer come in. There's the problem we're talking
I just got
about.
rid of them. No, I just got rid of them because it was a one-off bloody number on the back of a rare NRL jersey.
Right.
Oh, no
And
pressure.
no problem doing that. But yeah, there is. If I destroy it, I don't want to know about it. There's no financial reward in it. But
No.
I get a lot of that sort of thing. Like when you talk about with minimum volumes and keeping people out, I like people to come in. I like them to see the process. I like them to see that this is where your money's being spent. And it seems to work in a really small town, because it is a really small town with lots of little farm communities around, like little towns for a hub.
Mm-hmm.
So it works on the level that it's a word of mouth situation, very much so here. So if you do the right thing, things will grow.
Mm.
If you are short with someone, gee whiz, they're going to hang you up and dry. So, yeah, so the minimum orders, again, too, like I have trouble getting up to 10 a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's something in my future. What you're saying is right about doing those things. And if I was doing mostly online, it'd probably be, I enjoy the community side of it. And I've discovered that I really enjoy people.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that I'd see that as well as I do.
Yeah.
So a bit of a revelation. So, yeah, I enjoy your minimum orders, and I enjoy the Sydney minimum orders that are up to 50 and that, because that's what drives people to me.
Yeah.
That I'll do their low orders, and that's the sort of the niche that I fit in the marketplace.
Yeah. You were telling before another time that you did a job, I think it was a 6-color job, I can't remember, but it was a small run and it was a faff to set up and do, but then they came back for a much bigger order.
Yeah. Yeah, so she got a 5-color print on 10 shirts, and she got a 6-color print on 10 shirts, and they were expensive shirts by the time she went away. But she's come back and wants 100 of the 5 colors.
There you go.
So,
Yep.
and that's like, I charge a screen establishment fee, and it's a nuisance when someone come back and wants 10 6 colors again, because you've already got the cream out of it, and the rest of it's just hard graft.
Yeah.
But at 100, no problem at all day.
Yeah.
And I'll have to do that in lots, because 100 6-color prints, my ink will be drying up in the screens, even with the retarder, depending on the weather. You know,
And
I'll
you
be
wouldn't,
cleaning screens.
you definitely wouldn't do plastisol.
I'm not interested. I had a go at it down there. A bloke I work for in Cairns, Steve at NQ Promo. He's probably got most of Cairns sewn up, along with Gecko down there. Like, they do the bulk of the work in that city. And I didn't like the thinners that I'm using to clean the screens, and it was just, you're in thinners all day. I don't like the fumes. Plastisol's a lot heavy.
There are ways around it. Like, I didn't even know there was a thing called plastisol. All I knew was water-based, and we're 3,000 feet up. There's no water here. So, you know, I just couldn't get over it. Like, how do people print with this stuff? You know, it would dry in the mesh on a single revolution. The heat of the platen would dry the ink. Like, you know, it was just a nightmare. And then I learned about it, and I hated the idea of all those chemicals. But what we've sort of learned after time is that there are really good alternatives to all those chemicals. So we wouldn't use thinners. We've used white spirit, we've used all of those chemicals, but we now use, and have used for years, it's a Franmar product, and it's made of soya. It sounds a bit airy fairy, but it actually is brilliant. And we use it as press wash as well if we need to. Thinners can be pretty expensive. I was going to say it's probably not as cheap as white spirit, but you know, it's not expensive either. And you don't have any issues with drying out, right? So maybe on a run like that, where you've got the efficiencies by doing a run of 100 with 5 colors, look into it. You know, I'll send you a bottle up if you want. We'll decant one and send it up to you, because it might convert you on that. But there are a lot of chemicals. You print with plastisol, Josh?
Yes. Yeah.
What do you use to clean up?
Thinners
Okay.
mostly.
Yeah.
We do have we have a Franmar, like, can't remember what it's called, like a press change or press something like that, that I got to sort of, when we're changing inks and screens, but it sort of leaves a bit of a residue,
It's a bit oily, that one.
or seems
Yeah.
to dry a little bit longer. I'm not sure about that, so I've always just gone back to thinners. But I've done a little bit of water-based on some bags in the past, and I end up building like this fogger. I think Corey from Floodway on Instagram has a video of how to make one, and it did a really good job at sort of keeping that water-based sweet. Didn't have any issues with it drying up, but I was
Just a
punching them
misting
out pretty
system
quickly.
on the print head or something.
Yeah, use like a ultrasonic fogger. That's what
Wow.
they sort of use in like the ponds to get that misty effect on the top.
Nice.
And then it goes up like just some 90 mil stormwater pipe, and just have it sort of coming out the top, and it'll just sort of fall down onto your screen. Keep it not like wet, but just really humid around it.
Oh, okay. That sounds good.
That worked really well.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. Like, I use a squirt bottle, but I end up getting bleeds all the time when I use it, so I just don't do it anymore. I couldn't manage it with it. But, I quite like the water-based, because I do process printing. Instead of doing simulated process, I just do straight up CMYK process printing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can do that with plastisols.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
I
of
didn't
these.
realise I had that product. Yeah.
There's if I can move the camera. I don't know if you can see that one in
Yep.
the background. That's just standard plastisol CMYK. So
Yeah.
yeah, we do those.
You need
And
to put a
it's
base down for that as well on
no,
black.
not for that. Well, we probably wouldn't do it on black, but we can. Yeah, I don't think we ever have, but you can. I know people that do that all the time. Just drop a white base down, put CMYK on the top. No issues at all with plastisol.
Oh, right.
It's
I didn't
so
realise
much
they had the product.
easier. And the other thing is you can work at how to print with plastisol to get a much better soft hand that almost feels like water base. When we get some really nice prints where we colors where we work on those sorts of things, we use a number of other techniques. And I often ask to get a shirt myself. And I use those shirts with people to say, do you think this is water-based or plastisol? And they'll always say water-based, and it's plastisol. So there's lots of tricks. You know, if you've got a customer that, oh, we only love water-based, you can, you know, deploy various tricks, particularly with the underbase. Danny, I'm always talking about Danny. Oh, I can't remember his surname. From Flippin' Sweet Print Co. I'm not sure I should give this little trick away, but he's got a technique of using a different kind of ink as an underbase that is basically water-based, but it's a particular ink. And then he puts plastisol on the top and it feels just like a water-based. So there's lots of things you can do, but it's just much easier to work with in terms of drying out.
Yeah.
And it's easy to print, I think. Actually, like physically, it's a
I
lot
think
easier.
it's heavier.
Oh, really? Well,
Heavy to pull the screens.
the plastisol.
Yes.
So we would reduce most colors that go in. So if
Yeah.
you're on a CMYK, I don't know whether you're running out on a 90T or whatever, that can get a bit intense, but we just reduce it. And with that, it's a lighter squeegee pressure. Like it's really manageable ink. But you know, some people are pro one and pro the other, you know, that's fine. But I'd encourage you to give it a go because
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it, and I probably need to consider it really. If depending on how much work I'm doing and how big these orders come. Well, I'm doing low volume orders. It's not an issue.
yeah.
And it could possibly where I end up being really is mostly low volume orders. Like, and I'm not sure I mind that. I'm not sure what my expectations of this business are. Like, it's not just solely to make money. I enjoy a whole heap of the aspects of it, the social side of it, the community side of it. Just being able to, I've decided I'm pretty much a people pleaser with things. Like I like people to be able to send people away with something they're happy with and fill their order. Like people that were just here, I could probably do their job, but I don't want to do their job because there's a chance of disaster. And I just
Challenge of it.
I'm busy today, too busy today to think about it.
Right.
That's more the point.
Yeah.
But people come in and get one-off shirts from me. Anyway, for a single colour one-off front or back print, I'll hit them $45 and that covers my shirt. It doesn't cover anything else. It costs me a fortune to do, but I send people away with a shirt because they come with some quirky design.
Yeah. And
so
that's
it's not economically viable, but it's goodwill.
And goodwill is, you know, something to sow into a community. Like you say, word of mouth gets around if you do that. But if every order was a single shirt.
Oh, yeah, it'd be frustrated very quickly.
Yeah. I'll tell you a funny story. And he's probably listening or will listen. So I don't want to embarrass him too much, but I won't mention his name. But there's a gentleman that works for us who's starting another business and in the lawn mowing world. And this is a side hustle, he tells me, which is good. Anyway, he's come up with his brand and his logo design. And he came into work the other day and he said, I've got something to show you. I got a T-shirt printed somewhere else. And we were like, You did what? Do you know where you work? Anyway, he went online and used a DTG company. I won't say who they were, but they weren't great. And he got this shirt back. It was Gildan, which annoyed him straight away, for whatever reason, and not to bag out Gildan. But the print was shocking. The colors were shocking. He was really disappointed. Anyway, last night when he was leaving, he said, can you help me with this? And I said, well, what do you want? And he said, I just want a few T-shirts with an orange print and a few of them with a black print, I think it was. And I said, well, what do you do? And he said, well, can you give me the artwork? And I said, can you print out the film? And I said, well, give me the artwork. And we got the artwork, 20 seconds later, we were printing out the film for him. I said, well, go burn the screen. Like, what were you thinking? Like, just print it. Like, this is where you work, But it was really good to be reminded of how, to be blunt, rubbish a DTG can be. Not just because of the print, which can be great, I know that, but because the positioning wasn't great, the colors were really poor. Like, he put in Pantones and everything, and it still came back really poor. But it kind of tickled me a bit that he thought he'd go outside online to get a T-shirt printed when he works in a T-shirt printing company, bizarre. But and he said, what will that cost? And I said, look, it's cost of a screen and some T-shirts, mate. Like, it's only going to take you 5 minutes to print. Come on, So so maybe work on that minimum. I don't know. It's hard when you've got a community that just want one of something every now and again. But if I was doing a 5-color on a manual, I'd definitely want to try and do it in one go. So, the plastic whole question is a good one too. So Atherton, it's about an hour, is it, from Cairns?
Oh, an hour and a half drive.
Okay.
Like, it's not far, but there's a bloody mountain you got to climb up and down.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah,
it's a good road, that one.
Yeah, I've got a motorbike sitting in the back of the shed.
Ah, yes. I've stopped there once. We stopped and got lunch there. We did a trip up to Cairns a couple of years ago. Been through Atherton.
Yeah. Hey, pretty little town, like beautiful little town. And just it's been wet for 6 months and it's great. Just like I said, great strengthening weather. But like it'd be similar to Toowoomba, similar sort of country. I'd imagine. Yeah, like I haven't been to Toowoomba for so many years. I haven't been anywhere for so many years, but yeah, circumstances. But yeah, I'd imagine you'd enjoy it just for the familiarity, I guess.
Agricultural.
Yeah.
Are there lots of other towns the size of Atherton, or is Atherton like the next biggest one? Or
Mareeba's up or down the hill, half an hour inland, or just north. It's probably similar size to Atherton, but it's a fair bit lower, and the climate there is a lot hotter and drier. That's pretty well where the prison is, out the back of there. There's a couple of little regional towns, Youngaborough, which is a little tourist town. Sort of, I'm getting work out of different places, cafes and those sort of places. Melander's is another regional town, 20 minutes away. Up the hill, there's a couple of little regional towns, 20 minutes away, Herberton and Ravenshoe. So it's a great little central location for all these communities.
And they don't have screen printers in them?
There's no screen printer outside Cairns. Oh, Gordon Bell at the bottom of the hills, Gecko. And he is a tradesman screen printer, him and his son. But you don't see many of them about these days.
So you could advertise into those towns as well, those other smaller towns around, and get that, tap their communities for work as well.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of work out of everywhere. Like, this is the town where people come to shop. So like I said, it's growing and it's growing organically. Like, I do a little bit of Facebook. I post what business is doing what, and like it's a 4-meter front door that opens onto the road, so people drive past and I see the shirts hanging here, and there's a big sign out the front. It's a busy road in town.
Yep.
So it is sort of just, it has grown organically, and I'm fairly happy with what's happened this year. I'm keep waiting for it to stop, and it's not.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. That's great.
So, and my repeat customers are great. Uh, like my first ever customer, she's got a job sitting on the bench there. And she buys Woolworths shirts, and I put $8 prints on $5 shirts. Um, and that suits her because she has a high staff turnover. But yeah, there's just a whole heap of stuff I enjoy about it. And it's a good business to be in. Like it's a skill set that's people are going DTF and digital and DTG and all those sort of things. And I think screen printing stands up well against all those products.
I agree. Yeah, I agree entirely. It's a,
I think, yep, sorry.
I was just going to say, it's a question that seems to come up on every single podcast now. I listened to a number and it's coming up on this one. DTF, question mark. And it seems now that everyone's saying, well, it isn't new. It is a lot better than it used to be. And it serves a given market and a given size of order with the color complexity. But
Yep.
screen printing will always reign supreme on mass production and overall quality and longevity in the garment. So it's, yeah, you do DTF as well? You do Supercolor or something?
I go online and get, or on Instagram and get stuff sent up from Melbourne.
Yeah,
and
right.
I'll get a press here that I just cut it out and press it on, but I try not to.
Yeah.
Some people, that's what they want. It's what suits their brand.
Yeah.
Like the big screen printer in Cairns, he's just bought a DTF printer, and he bought that in January. He's ordered another one.
Wow.
Just 30 odd K of outlay for a printer. But his problem is finding people to do the screen printing, like finding people competent.
Gotcha.
To have someone come in, he had one there a while ago, I believe, that came in and printed the shirts beautifully, but they're all crooked.
Yeah.
It's like Josh, you were saying that it's no problem to get someone in to do it and show them, but it's a sum of details, really. Like I've loaded a heap of shirts from the prison. I loaded a heap of shirts crooked. Doesn't matter how good the print is, the print's crooked. They had deep pockets, thankfully, and we replaced them.
Well, he needs to outsource to you, Jason. You need to, that guy in Cairns that bought the DTF.
No, he won't do that. He's a nice bloke. He gave me a start at screen printing, and when I got out, but he's very focused on getting all the work.
Oh, okay.
And he's got a 5-year plan that he'll be out in 5 years, I think. But I'm not sure going away from printing and going to DTF is. Well, I'm not sure how that'll go. Like I think screen printing is a better product. I just think the DTF, but finding a screen printer is a problem. Constantly finding workers is a problem.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in a position I've got to face that, really. Like if I keep it manageable and keep, like my overheads here are fairly low.
Yep.
Because it is a fairly rudimentary sort of setup.
Well, that's what you want. You want them to be low. You want to manage that.
Yeah.
But even if you
how you going with your move?
Mine?
Yeah, like finding a bloody shed big enough would be a nightmare.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was waiting. So we looked at so many different places now. I'm sort of sick of it. And we looked at a place a couple of weeks ago that was amazing, but was only for sale. And I'd asked the real estate to go back and say, look, can we lease it? And he came back this week and said, no, the guy only wants to sell, and then try to convince me to buy, which didn't work. So we're back to plan A, which is pricey. And it's the building that's being built next to the units that we're all in here. And it's big. It's 3 units and we're taking 2 of them. So it'll jump us up from 100, 110 square meters to 420. So I can get 4 autos in there. I don't know whether I want to get 4 autos in there, but I keep saying if we're going to move, got to get it big enough because I'm not moving again. You know what I mean? So that will
How
work.
big are you now? Sorry.
About 110 square meters.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
it's 140 here, and I don't think it's big enough. I've got
Yeah,
nothing.
exactly. So now you know why we can't put that other manual in, and it's very well set up. Josh has seen it. It's all very compartmentalized well, but the washout booth is a bit too close to some of the stock, and I keep thinking, oh no, it's a disaster waiting to happen. But the other problem is the main problem for us has always been power. We looked at a place not far from here. Again, was really good. It's going to, we could see it. I could put this here and that there, and bigger offices and all the rest of it. But it didn't have enough power, and that's a real issue. When you go to autos, there are so many other things to consider. You're running 3 flashes, or the actual unit itself will, draw. Ours basically it beats 100 amps continually.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, 3-phase. So, and obviously it spikes up and down a bit with the flashes. So that's been an issue. So that's one of the reasons we want to take 2 units, because we get 2 sets of power and we get obviously a much bigger place. But our other thing is it's going to cost me 100 grand just to actually kit it out, because it's a completely new build. So I've got to, find the money to do that. And I want to do it right. You know what I mean? Like you'd think, well, I've done this, I've done that, I built that, I built that. I'm not very mechanically minded or very good at building. So let's get it done right. Let's get some professionals in, and
There's no risk of over capitalizing it.
there is, but it hit 7 figures 3 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
So we're trying to slow growth, but continue to grow, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cope with that. So everything we purchase with cash. We don't even borrow off dad in my case, let alone the banks. So, and our strategy, well, we don't really know what our long-term strategy is, but my personal strategy is to get out of this when I hit 65, 67. It's another 10 years to go yet. So I'd like to prepare it structurally for that, as well as revenue. But yeah, so we're back to that plan. I could throw a cricket ball, or maybe I should say a hockey ball, to it from here. And it's looking great. They've got the concrete walls ready to crane in now, but it's just taken so long. It's meant to be ready in June last year, so I'm still, yeah. So the entry date at the moment is the 1st of September.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So fingers crossed on that.
Yeah, and look, to be honest, it takes so much energy to go around and check everything, get the electrician in and work out this, that, and the other, and look at our architectural plans for the fit out again and again and again. I'm sort of over it, to be honest. And so it will cost quite a bit of money, but yeah, I think it'll work. But that's all we've got. We're a small town. There's a limit to what we can get, especially with the power. So, and Josh is looking at places as well. Is any change on that?
We were gonna due to take this on. We are going to take it on for this month actually. Well, for the office and showroom part, and then the builder that we're going to be leasing from still has all his materials in the warehouse part. So it's just going to be until he takes that out and sort of end of financial year probably, and then we take over the whole thing. But I'll just push that back a month, just to see what happens because I can't really move anything.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, that was the really inconvenient part is we had these plans to to move here, and like I don't really me not being able to be really involved in that moving part's going to be a bit of an interesting time.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How big's the new place, Josh?
There's about 140 square meters of like office and showroom space, and then it'd
That's
be
good.
about similar warehouse size.
That's good for
Yeah, it's nice.
offices and
Mm.
show space. That's amazing.
Mm. I'm not sure. It's right on the main road, like one of the main roads in Toowoomba, and we never really wanted to have a sort of shop front or anything. But I'm interested to see how that affects the business we get. Um, we don't want to be like getting those like Jason gets sort of the walk-ins with smaller orders. But I think maybe if we get some good signage that sort of explains what we do, like I don't know,
They'll ignore
to
it.
sort of
They'll just
yeah,
ignore it.
hopefully
They just,
they
they'll
probably,
just
Ah,
come in
they'll
lovely
probably
anyway.
even
sight
look at it.
seeing.
They'll just ignore it. Our signs say bulk only, you know,
Mhm.
they just ignore it and come in. I just want one of these printed. But yeah, you might be able to
Yeah.
get around that. Yeah. So you think you'll get a lot more footfall going past that'll see the signs or driving past and they go, oh, there's the t-shirt. Do you have many competitors in Toowoomba?
There's like one other screen printer
Wow.
that actually screen prints. The rest, there's a lot of uniform. There's a few uniform shops and stuff that will just either DTF or ultra color um, and do embroidery. Um, but yeah, there's as far as screen printing, there's not much from here west. So that's sort of a nice thing for us. But um, I don't know how many of the people in Toowoomba know that they're actually not getting screen printing, because I was chatting to one of the blokes the other day that owns another, like probably one of the bigger uniform shops, and he's like, "Oh, we don't even tell them, like, explain the difference because they don't know." I was like, "Oh, you can't really just like when people ask for screen printing, you got to tell them that it's different because it's just lying to them. That's not what it
Yeah.
is."
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, there's a few times if people are pricing us up, I wonder how many times they're sort of not going with us because they think they're providing a cheaper option for the same thing when they're not actually comparing apples with apples, I guess.
Yeah. We have got a uniform shop, a customer, got a number of them, but this one actually gets us to print plastisol heat transfers that they press on the garments.
Mm.
Hundreds of them. And I say to them, if you just give us the garments, this
Yeah.
is an automatic press. It does 600 an hour. Like it would be so much cheaper, but they don't. We just want the transfers. And I wonder
Mm.
sometimes whether they're thinking, well, it's ink, like, and it is ink,
Mm.
but it's still just pressed on. Um, yeah. And I think I don't know if this is true, see what you guys think. There might be a little bit of a move away from embroidery on
Yeah.
forms. It seems to be the case. Because sometimes I say, this would normally be embroidered. Are you aware of that? Oh yeah, no, we want it screen printed because it is cheaper for them. So I don't know if that's the case, but you do a lot of embroidery anyway, don't you? You do a lot of hats as well, don't you? From memory, Josh. Yeah.
Yeah, I do a lot. We do. We're probably more embroidery than printing now. We'll be close to it. Um, we probably we do a bit of contract work for some like branding and graphic designers that also will do the uniforms for businesses too. Um, and we'll usually they do a lot of tradies. That's their sort of main market, and so we do a lot of like the polos and that sort of things. So he press a lot of those. Usually we will embroider the left chest, but they're often like a left chest plus back print, and then he pressed the back. Because they've all got bloody a million colours in them because they're
Cost a
gradients and all
fortune.
sorts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um, but I suppose market here, they're very keen on embroidery still, especially do a lot of work shirts, and that sort of thing. But I do see a lot more like from other printers, uh, sort of workwear with like in either screen printed or heat pressed
Hmm.
decoration over embroidery, which is interesting. But our market around here is still pretty keen on embroidery.
And if a tradie came in, let's say a plumber or something, and wanted you to print 10 garments, would you try and upsell them to 20, or like what would your strategy be? Would you just print the 10, or because
Depends on what,
tradies tend to be smaller organizations, right? Yeah.
yeah. I suppose it depends on the art. If it's sort of work where like most of them are, I'll try and probably upsell them because our minimum is four for embroidery um and heat pressing. I'll probably try and upsell them a little bit from there, but they're yeah, you like you said, they're usually not after heaps. So that's probably that 10 is probably all that they're after. So
Yeah.
we just try and price it accordingly that it is worth our time, which has been interesting because I've been really looking at that, and
Yeah.
there's a lot more cost in the sale than I sort of originally thought. Not making as much bank as I thought I was.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Good analysis to do, isn't it?
Mm,
The thing that we try and do, like we will, well, I say we will, but I don't want to, but sometimes my colleague does take pity on them, if you know what I mean. And that's a good thing, right? Like they come in and they maybe have bought their own shirts, which we don't like.
like that.
Yeah, I hate that. But they've got them, they're in the shop, it is hard. We'll try to upsell. But one of the things we sometimes say is when they say, well, look, I just don't need 20, we say, well, maybe you should take 10 t-shirts and 10 hoodies. Oh, I still don't need that many. And we've started saying, well, have you thought about giving them away to mates? Because it's actually a great form of advertising. And they usually go for it. Oh, yeah, I hadn't
Mm,
thought of that. That's not a bad idea. Um, and give them away to customers. People will wear a hoodie, people wear a t-shirt. Like it's something that people aren't going to chuck in a bin. Um, but it is frustrating when they come in. And it's the first question. How many was it you were looking for? Forget everything else. How many did you want?
Yeah.
We'll try and manage it from there. But I feel like it is hard. Um, but I think it's necessary. Um, because if, for example, if you, going back to that analogy I was using, if you manage to have your press running 4 to 5 hours a day, pretty much flat out, which might seem impossible at the moment given all the other parts that go to making that work. But if you had that running and there were like, I don't know, 3 customers a day that you were printing, you're printing a few hundred, and then somebody comes in for one shirt and another person comes in for one shirt, all that happens is all that other work backs up. And so your supply turnaround increases. It sort of affects everything. Do you know what I mean? And
mm,
I feel like it's a thing that will just happen because of necessity. Eventually, we'll say, actually, we can't do that. You'll take the dark label example of doing 50 or 60 minimum. It obviously works for them and
mm,
it makes it cost efficient. We try and work out the cost for everything, the cost to reclaim, recoat a screen, so that we're always challenged about actually that, you know, if you're going to have a 20,000 million color print and you want 20 shirts, it's going to cost this with super color, or you need to buy 500 garments or whatever. And it is astonishing when you start to kind of analyze everything in terms of cost, how much things really cost.
mm.
Mm.
I think for me, a big realization is going from me doing all the work to then paying people to do the work it has made me think a lot more critically of jobs. Like when it was just me, it's like, oh yeah, whatever, I'll just like knock that out or do it a bit at night or in the evening, whatever. But when you're paying someone else to do it, it really makes you think about
Absolutely.
what that job is actually costing you. And
Absolutely.
it makes you say no a little bit more.
Yeah. I don't think they're the necessary inputs that are going to change the shape of
Mm,
our businesses and how we run them. But it's such a good business to be able to do that because you can start at any size. And, you know, when we started, we had lots of tiny jobs, and then occasionally we get a really good one. And it allows you to cope with that, it allows you to build on that, it allows you to earn good money on that. But as these things grow, it challenges you to make those kind of changes. We were interviewing people this week, and hopefully none of them are listening, but we had a very broad spectrum of quality of people, and we do sort of like an introductory interview, and then I do a walk around and show them the process. And then if we like them, we give them a tryout for 2 or 3 days, and if it works, they get a job. What I noticed in my own stupid mind was that the people that I interview here that I think are quite good, I spend a lot longer going around, do you know what I mean?
mm,
Really explaining in detail all the bits. And I was showing one of them how we expose a screen. And, I turned it on, and I was getting completely carried away. And everybody was kind of looking at me going, what the hell are you doing, man? Um, anyway, this person said, oh, so it takes 25 seconds to burn a screen. And I said, yeah. And then I thought, back in the day, it was like 20 minutes to burn a screen, That's obviously a good investment. Do you know what I mean? Like when you get to that stage, that actually was a really good thing to do. If there's an issue, we don't have to wait 20 minutes. We just get the film back on, burn the screen, get it in, dry it, bang, on the press. And I think those necessary challenges on the business processes and the kit, the automation are really good when you make those steps. So I should go back and work it out for our little business, how we started and what kit we bought when and why. And there's probably a kind of progress line. And we made some mistakes in that line for sure. Where, it should be, well, when you get to this stage, what should you buy next? What point should you get another member of staff? Like those kind of things. It's probably a business more. My background is business consulting, so I tend to kind of run off with these ideas. But there must be a kind of way of looking at how to build that. And there are very few businesses, especially in our line of manufacturing, which is you're saying, Jason, you can overcapitalize very quickly if you're
Yeah.
not careful. There's very few businesses that lend themselves to this kind of expansion model, but there must be a ratio of orders to value to minimum quantities to target markets that you're trying to get into that spend more and buy more to kit that you buy along the process.
Yeah, I was looking at on that with that thought, I was looking at a T3200 Epson wide format printer, like a 24-inch to do my transparencies. I'm running a bloody 6860 Canon at the moment, just A3 sheets, and they're a couple $100 each.
Mm.
And I really can't justify going to a wide format. I'd love one. Like it'd
Mm.
be just beautiful to be able to do the odd bespoke print for my art and that. But to spend $4 or $5 on a printer at this stage of the game is just capital that I don't need to spend on replacing. Like the Canon capped itself after 18 months, and 3 days later I've got a new one.
Another one for $200. Absolutely. I love those printers. We still have them. We do have the big Epson, but what I will say is, what are the benefits? If you want a darker ink on the film positive, you can control that much better than the Epson, although the Epson's one of the darkest you can get, right?
Yeah.
It's got those photo black cartridges. The ink cartridges are like this, they're huge. Um, Obviously you get can get a much bigger print, but then are your patterns big enough anyway? Right?
No.
Exactly. So I reckon, apart from dark ink on the film positive, the number one benefit is the cost saving on the film itself.
Yeah.
Because you've got that wide format 61-inch, and you're putting multiple pieces of artwork. There's not a lot of wastage if you get it right, and that's worth doing. But like you say, it's a huge investment just to get that. Do you
Yeah.
know?
And I'm not doing enough work at the moment. Like in 12 months' time, I may be. Like my work isn't that onerous that I'm doing that many transparencies. And I squeeze a couple of jobs onto an A3 bloody sheet anyway if I
Anyway,
can.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so, my wants and my needs are two separate things. I'm just reminding myself to stick with the needs at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It is getting busier and things will have to change, but like you, I'm keeping an eye on cost. Like I put a little tick on the bloody bucket every time I put emulsion on. I get 160 screens out of a $160 bucket
Brilliant.
of emulsion.
Brilliant.
So,
Yeah.
that's $1 a screen. It cost me to put emulsion on it. What it cost me to clean it with chemicals, I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
So
And just the time. That's the most
Yeah.
expensive, the cost to actually reclaim and re-emulsify. I think it is really important to do that stuff. Yeah, obviously it can get a bit kind of, pedantic.
You can be OCD on things, but
yeah, but it's still
you
good
need to keep an eye
know.
on it, be aware of them at least.
Yeah, yeah. And I think if
Um,
you've got processes that work really well, all that will happen is you'll look to speed up those processes, which means you'll ultimately automate. And it's just working out what's next.
The 20-second bloody exposure time is phenomenal. Like I've got a light box I built myself, and it's 3 minutes 30, I think.
But it's down to the emulsion that you use and the kind of lights that you have, really. So we use an LED one now, but we use really fast exposure emulsion that doesn't have a diazo, because that also takes time mixing up the diazo, and also working. We now use a what is it called? We have stupid names for everything here. We call it the Fluminator, but basically an auto coater that coats both sides. It allows us to get much more control over the consistency, but also to work out how much we want on there as well. And I think that is critical when it comes to exposing, because you obviously want a thick enough stencil, but you don't want to be exposing it, in my case, for 15 minutes. It's kind of pointless. So I feel like we've just tweaked all those things over time and come down to a thing that works. But I will say this, Josh, who got me into thin thread mesh.
Oh yeah?
What
do you reckon?
Well, the guys aren't convinced yet, and they want to do a test on it. We've only got 10 screens with it on, and they're all marked, so we know which ones they are. But what I didn't think, so we normally do 2 and 1. So we'd coat 1 on the base and 2 on the top. What I didn't think, of course, was that because they're open mesh, they hold a lot more emulsion, like a low mesh count. It's obvious now, but it wasn't at the time. And I was like, wow, these stencils are really thick. And when the guys came to blow them out, they actually weren't fully exposed. So it was fine to get the stencil, but what we found on the base, the bottom bit, the substrate bit, is the emulsion started to kind of fleck a little bit around the edges of the stencil. And I was like, maybe we should go back to just a 1-on-1 on those, which is fine. That's what we did. But being able to control that kind of stuff, I found was really good. But yeah, we just dialed it in, and we just know what we like now. You know what I mean? Like we all do, don't we? I like that emulsion. I like that screen, and this is how we do it. But anytime you change that, everything can go wrong. I feel like we just stick to what works.
Resist change on the basis that we've got patterns of behaviour that we're happy with.
Yeah. Hey, that thin thread, actually, you may already do this, Jason, but that thin thread is designed for water base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I buy my screens off. I've got everything off Howard at the start. But lately I've been using James Brothers for supplies.
Yep.
Like emulsion, that sort of thing. And I got some 100T screens off them for doing process printing with and that. And I don't mind them; they're nice. So, but I don't understand difference in squeegees or like very self-taught. So it's all just learning curve stuff. So it's all hoping things go well, making things go well because last year, the year before, I spent a lot of money replacing things. The customer gets what the customer pays for.
Mm.
And it means I've got a box full of bloody shirts there that aren't what the customer wanted.
Mm.
And that's just the way it's got to be, I think, especially in a small town. But yeah, as for mesh counts and those sort of things, Jones Brothers have been good with me, give me advice on different things. So they provide a good service.
Yep.
I had a tunnel dryer cack itself at the start of the year, and that was a stressful moment. But Howard and Leapfrog, they sorted that for me fairly good. So the suppliers are really good and really helpful, is what I found. And the whole industry seems to be really supportive at a whole heap of levels, which I find interesting and just great. It's a good industry to be in on that basis, really.
It's a small industry. You know what I mean? It's disparate. It's spread across a massive country, but it's a small number of people doing anything in this industry, which is great. Getting them connected, I think, can be difficult, but the vendors I find are really good. But there's this thin thread. It's actually not called that, is it? It's called something else.
Hydro, I think.
What's it called?
Is the actual Hydro? Saudi Hydro, I think, is its actual
That's right.
name.
That's why it's water-based. So basically, Jason, the threads, the number of threads per centimeter or inch are exactly the same as standard thread, but the thread itself is thinner, and it allows more water to be held in the space between the threads. So I don't know if that would help reduce the amount of drying in the mesh for you. And it's Jones Brothers that do that, isn't it?
Yeah. They might be those yellow ones that I got for the So I told them what I'm doing, and they just provided me screens that were these new yellow meshes. They may well be that. I'm not sure.
Yep. But if not, next time you remesh, just ask for it. And I don't think it's any more expensive. I think it's
pretty similar. I think.
They've been advertising a mesh that you don't need to degrease, I think. They've got a new mesh that they're advertising that you just got to go your process, your cleaning process, and not have to degrease it. I'm not sure. I thought that was a mesh that was supposed to be doing it. Also, see a product that does the same thing being advertised at the moment too. But I've got.
Oh, it might have been the 701 or something from Easyway because it's a dehaze and degrease, I think. Maybe.
Oh, okay. In one.
Yeah, not sure. Yeah. But my process is like I started off putting Freegan paste all over bloody things. Like every screen got Freegan paste because I was used to it at the prison because they had deep pockets, and this is what I did. And time was like you're getting $45 a week for a week's work, so your time is worth nothing. I'm still running on that budget, which isn't bad. So
yeah.
It was an interesting place to screen print anyway. Like I had different people working with me there, and a bloke came in that had done screen printing on the outside, and he said, "Well, you're not doing that right. You're not doing that right. You're not doing that right." And I'm just, no, go away.
Yeah.
And he was right. Yeah, he was right with what he was saying on a few different levels, but pies through tunnel dryers don't impress me. They're not an oven, but you got to battle to keep that from not happening. But I used to stand beside the plat and just work from the side, And he said, no, that's not how you, like, that's just what I was taught in there by the previous screen printer. And it's not very efficient, and it pulls the screen oddly. And if you work from the other side, it pulls it the other way. So you get this shadow effect. And this Jack Paradox, he's got a design business in Cairns now. He's fairly busy with screen printing and design work, but he said, well, this is the way you do this. And I was skeptical, and then I got out and figured out Jack was right with what he was saying, and I probably owed him an apology. But so it's a hard-headed environment with no room to give too much. So inflexibility is the first bloody stance, and it was just an interesting place to learn something or try to learn something and get out and realise that what you thought you knew very little about.
But a great place to learn it as well, without extra pressures from outside kind of demanding too much. Or was it quite demanding in terms of output? Were they?
Oh, yeah, like we had the Tablelands community. Like the work I'm doing now is what used to get done in the jail. The jail doesn't do much anymore because they can't find people to do it in there. But yeah, the work had to be right, and quite often it was a bit iffy, and they'd replace it. Like I put a heap of wrong coloured ink on the shirts, and they replaced them because they've got deep pockets. And 50% my mistake, 50% probably the mistake of the instructor. I should have known better, and he told me a colour and it was wrong, and I should have picked it up. So it was good like that. Like there's no expectation that you're going to be great at things, but you're very much learning by yourself, and there's no internet, there's no one to tell you what to do. So you've got to work these things out.
So when you came out, did you go on? Was YouTube around before you went in?
No.
No, wow. So that was a big change.
Yeah, 2001 I went in, so all this social media, all this stuff we take it for granted. I take it for granted now, but 23 years ago or whatever it was, it didn't exist.
So when you came out, was that did you start going on YouTube and watching videos and things, which is what we did? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of that.
Amazing resource.
Yeah, it is a great resource, and so many different things. And I was RIP software and that I'm still confused about. I don't know what RIP software is.
Right.
People bring me photos and I digitize them. People bring me crappy artwork, I digitize it. I sit there on Photoshop, and I don't use Illustrator because I have no idea. I've taught myself Photoshop, and being both from Adobe, I would have thought they would have been compatible at some level with the skill set.
I know. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's crazy. So I don't understand Illustrator at all, and I don't have it on my computer anymore because I was paying for a product that I had turned on twice and couldn't drive.
Yep.
So all my digitizing is done on Photoshop, and I'm happy with what I can produce with that.
Do you convert like a photo into a bitmap and print out? Yeah. Yeah.
So I do grayscales. There's a grayscale hanging up there. Someone bought a photo of his grandfather on motorbikes and that. It came out as a beautiful photo. People want to buy it when they come in and see it hanging in the shop. Like, can we buy that shirt? And I said, no, you can't buy that shirt. That's a customer's.
Yeah.
But he has a motorcycle rider training business. So he just got his logo and his uncles and grandfather on the back for his own personal.
That's cool.
But like there's a white one up behind me there. It was a colour pencil piece of artwork. You just scan it in and do a CYMK colour separation on it in Photoshop.
Yep.
And do up the screens and off you go. Like it's fairly quick and easy.
Well, should I tell you something interesting? It took me ages to work this out. You know, you were talking about what is a RIP? What is that? All a RIP does, you'll be amazed about this, is it takes a vector image and it turns it back into a raster image that's half-toned. So what you're doing by turning it into a bitmap is exactly the same as a RIP does, The only difference is that a rip can separate the colors. So, you know, you're doing that manually in Photoshop just now to switch it to CMYK, which is really cool. It does that all for you. And it also, depending on your printer, allows you to control the amount of ink, the size of the ink droplet when it prints onto the film. And that's all it's doing. So it's taking a vector and switching it to a raster in obviously in halftones. And you can control the shape of the dots and the physical size of the dots as well. But that's all it's doing.
But Photoshop, you control the dot too.
Say again?
Photoshop, you can control the shape of the dots and all that too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's pretty similar, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we use Illustrator. And I remember that awful experience of trying to move from Photoshop to Illustrator and saying, why are the shortcuts all totally different? Like, who was it a different company building two different products? Like it does my head in, but I love it now. I'm you know, finally converted to it, and I think it's a great product. But it is bizarre when you rip something, it just turns it back to a raster, which is what it stands for, raster image processing. That's
well, you got rasterized button on bloody Photoshop, eh? That's done fairly quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
so you don't necessarily need to go to Illustrator, really.
You have customers coming in with these new AI generated images,
Couple,
put them onto shirts.
Yeah.
How are you finding those images?
They're always simulated process, and most people can't afford sim process with a small run. You know, we'll say to them, look, it needs to be 100 or whatever. So they then usually get us to rebuild the artwork and reduce colors and that kind of thing. But yeah, we're seeing those more and more.
I find that they're pixelated. The actual images they're bringing to me are still pixelated. Well, I've only had a couple of them come in that they're not nice, crisp images at all.
No, they're not. They're all rastered initially. So they look good from a distance or on a screen. But yeah, when you convert them, they could be really pixelated. There's not a lot you can do about that, I don't think. But yeah, I don't like them personally. I think it's a pretty poor way of creating an image, to be blunt.
I think it'll make work for us because they're all bloody designers now, and they're all, look at me, aren't I clever?
Yeah.
And they're all artists in their own right. And yeah, I guess it'll create work. I'd like to get me volume. I did one for a business here, and it was a phoenix and that sort of thing. And she wants more colours. She wants all the pretty colours in. I've taken it back to a full colour. Looks great, but not what she's after.
We did have a guy who was a tradie come in, and he had done, it was just a logo that wasn't a super color type thing, and you know, lots of colors. And he had done like 10 different AI logos, and he said, I don't like any of them. Can you do one for me? And he just he had them on his phone. He just emailed them over, and they were just boring and almost all had the same kind of basic design in them, if you know what I mean, at the base. But there was slight variance. And I said, did you go to a logo creator or did you go to AI? And he showed me the site. It was an AI site. And he said, I don't like any of them. And he just gave me a few words about what he was thinking in terms of style and market. And I said, oh, well, we'll run up a logo and see what you think. And he went with that. So I don't think it'll work in all circumstances. But if you said something like, you know, tiger catching fish in river in Africa or wherever, with JCB digger in the background, you know, I mean, AI would produce something quite funky that an artist or a designer would go, what, that's just mental. But I just don't see the application so much for that yet. You know, people all people have ideas. It's just a question of translating it. And I feel like having another human being saying, well, have you thought of this? Or, that's a modern font. Do you want one that's more classic or conservative or, poppy or whatever? I think that's still really important, that interaction with people. Do you do a lot of design work as well for people?
Well, little bits and pieces, not a great deal. Like I said, the mate that was in prison with me, the screen printer, he's got his business now, so I steer direction, work in his direction. Like he's more a graphic designer, Jack. Um, I I do little bits and pieces, just simple stuff, eh? Like they come in, they want a bloody red belly steak or just odds and ends. Like they want, I don't know, really, just work logos and those sort of things. I can do, no worries at all.
Yeah, nice.
Um, I can't think of what I've done that's interesting, really. I've done Jimmy Cook taking a dump on the bloody shore. That was interesting, but um, ah, that, that nearly got me bloody rung out of Cooktown. Um, just not a happy day. But yeah, I can do basic design work, and I do basic design work. Generally, I find I don't get any money for it. I don't charge for it.
Right.
So I try to avoid it on the basis of that. I don't know how to charge for. I've got a fee for it, but I've never charged anyone for it yet.
Right.
And I don't think people appreciate how many hours goes into designing something.
Yep.
Like some bloke came in yesterday or the day before, he wanted a trout fishing sheet. He's going trout fishing. So I downloaded a silhouette of a trout jumping, just pulled
Nice.
it off and put font over it. And it met all the requirements of a trout fishing shirt that he expects. So yeah, simple design work like that, no problem at all.
Nice.
But
Is that
complicated
something?
design.
Is that something you do, Josh, as well? Design?
This year we've done a little bit more because
You've actually
we've
got
got
a
Catherine.
designer. Yeah.
Yeah, which has been sometimes it's pretty handy. It's nice just to palm the artwork off to her and she just sorts it out. But like yesterday, for example, we do a lot of stuff for the main like rugby union, like sort of body here that sort of is in charge of all the other clubs for their like finals and stuff. And we've got a spreadsheet with dates where they might need shirts. And I just happened to look at them and I was like, oh, they might need some for next Friday. And so I hit her up on Wednesday and she was like, oh, yeah, actually, we'd love some if you can swing it. I was like, oh, we can try. And she's been sick too, so not exactly the fastest to reply, but Friday morning, she's like, yep, let's do it. And so yesterday, Catherine put a few designs together. There's like 5 finals, so she put 5 designs together and sent them through, and they're like, "Yep, happy." And so we'll print that next week. But that sort of, I guess, is how we've got that work is to be able to do the design side of things too, and be able to turn it around quick if needed. But we often, what we have been upselling a little bit is like branding kits, I guess. When people send us like just a logo and they're like, oh, it needs to be like vectorized or whatever, we'll say we can do a full kit with like your colors and fonts and that sort of thing. So we've been doing a little bit of that, and it's amazing. We do some stuff a lot more this year in the oil and gas industry, and they'll send their colors, but they're good luck trying to find a vector or any like branding guides, which is amazing considering they're like million or
$1
billion-dollar
billion.
companies. And they're like, these are our like hex codes. I found that somewhere. This is a photo of our logo. I'm like, so we've done and that's sort of we've done that even just as a way to sweeten the deal with them. We're like, oh yeah, we vectorize it. Here it is. We won't like charge you, but you can use it. And sometimes like a few of the bigger ones just to try and get them on our side is we would do up a kit for them, and chuck our logo on it. So whoever is ever looking at that, they're like, oh, it's sort of North Print is the one who's done that. So as a sort of value add, that's been handy. But we don't advertise that we do design because sometimes people are just not happy for forever. You go back 10 times and they're still not happy with the design.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
It's
difficult.
difficult. Talking about branding, that I started chucking www Shed 76 on the inside back hem of my t-shirts when I was doing them. When I remember it, I brand them.
Mhm.
But
That's good.
just a nice, like when they're pulling their shirt on and off, they can't not bloody see the bloody just centimetre or 8 mil wide font on the inside hem of the bloody shirts, and I quite like that just for pushing the button and trying to get a little bit extra work.
Where are you printing that exactly? On the inside of the neck, or
Inside the back hem or the bottom hem.
Oh, okay, yeah, down the bottom. Yeah, that's a good
so,
idea. Never thought
Yeah,
of
it's
that.
interesting.
That's genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, don't remember it all the time, but it's just nice. They know where they got their shirt from, especially if they're shirts that are someone's. I don't do to people's merch, but I've got a builder here that hands out shirts everywhere. He loves handing out shirts, so it's just nice to put in the back of that because he's handing out to other builders and his mates and that sort of thing. So it's in the industry and it just works.
Have you
Just
thought
different ideas.
that's a really good idea? Have you thought of also printing your own garments and packaging them and putting them in as a freebie? We sometimes do that with our own
I
brand.
do calico bags and stubby coolers with my
Yeah,
brand on
right.
it. I send an order out. I just got a heap of calico bags. I print and I get them made. And if it's an order of 20 or more, they go into a calico bag, a shopping bag that's got
Nice.
Shed 76.
That's clever.
There's one hanging away in the background there in the picture, but
Yeah,
so
I can see. That's a brilliant
it,
idea. Do you print your own subby coolers, or do you get them printed somewhere else?
I print them. I buy the stubby cooler blanks, and it's just hugely labour intensive, and I'm better off blockies labouring than I am printing stubby coolers because I
Right.
make more.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shed 76 stubby coolers, you print the neoprene blank, you glue the ends together, you iron the strip on it, you glue the base in it.
Yeah, wow. Amazing.
And for customer stubby coolers, I print the base with 76, Shed 76. So they've got their logo on the outside of a stubby cooler. When they pull a stubby out, they've got my name in the bottom of it.
I like
So,
that. It's really good.
Like that.
Quite
yeah,
really
just
helpful.
cheeky, but but to sit there and make stubby coolers, like I said, I got out in 2022 February. I went block layers labouring because that's what I used to do. And I'm old, my back's bad, and I just 2 weeks of that, and I'm just
Yeah.
just a horror show. I'm not as like pride, just want to I can still do this. Look at me, aren't I clever? And apparently I'm not. So
Like the rest of us.
yeah, like you go into prison and people go in, they come out the same age as they go in. You go in at 32, you come out at 32 in the head. People go in at 18, they come out 20 years later as 18-year-olds, and it's just got this middle-aged bloody 18-year-olds.
Yeah, right. Interesting.
Because it's just, that's what the place does for you. But yeah, so I got out a 53, 52, 53-year-old, 32-year-old mind and went block layer labouring and just, no.
Your body said no.
No, I didn't want to play, but the block layers are slower these days too, which was frustrating, and they don't work nearly as hard.
Interesting.
And they make better money, which is, and I still couldn't keep up. Yeah. So yes, I need to make screen printing. Well, screen printing is working.
Yeah.
It's just taken a while to find traction, and it's just finding traction just organically.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up, I was going to ask you that important question. If you were starting again, having come out of jail or whatever, what would you do differently? And what would you recommend to people starting up?
Oh, like there's not too much that I do differently. Like I wasted money on chasing my own brand initially. Like I wouldn't go down that route again. I'm still chasing my own brand, but I need to work it in with my business and not come out with the fancy world that will be my business.
Yeah, that's
So
interesting.
I was unrealistic about branding and that sort of thing. But for other people, I think you just need to be consistent, provide a good product and be consistent with a good product and provide a good service, and the work will come. You just have to have the legs and the capital to get to be around long enough for people to realise that you're providing a good service and a good product, and for them wanting to pay for it. I'm a little bit dearer than online. I'm a little bit dearer than cans. Probably $1 or $2 a garment, not a great deal. But it just takes time. There's probably better ways to drive visibility and advertising and that, but that requires capital and good choices too. I created a website or paid for a website for my t-shirts when I got out. That cost me $2,500, and that was $2,500 just wasted because a website can sit in the ether. If no one finds it, you're selling nothing.
Yeah,
but it's not about. It's about finding people that are good at the things that you aren't good at. The problem is everyone tells you that they're good at things, but yeah, it's just a huge problem, eh? Like social media and all that sort of thing. Oh, I'm good at that. I'm good at this. And it's a generational thing. All these new Gen Y and all the millennials are taught to believe that they're good at everything, and they just sprout themselves at being good at everything, and they haven't got the goods to back up their bloody claims.
that's
So
right.
finding good support to do the things that you can't manage to do is the hardest part, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But networking is probably the most important thing you can do alongside with keeping quality up. Like I printed some camp chairs for a big plumbing business here for Christmas gifts for their workers.
Wow,
And have you ever tried printing them?
I'd
It's a
imagine.
terrible material to print. Just the back of the camp chairs, they're a plastic sort of whatever else, woven plastic sort of bloody material. And they printed all right. It was a 2-colour print. And it was a fantastic looking print. And I packed them all into their bags and put them away. And the lady came to pick them up and I pulled her out to show her so proud I was of my work. And the print all stuck together and came away from the chair.
Oh.
She'd bought these chairs and I was just like devastated. Like I'm just collapsed. Like, and no, it's all right. I'll fix it. Put them back in the bag. And she got the chairs from Big W. And to get the same chairs, the only Big W I can get these chairs from, a few in Cairns, hour and a half away. The rest of them were in Townsville, and that's 4 hours drive away.
But you did it right. But you did
an
it.
overnight drive to Townsville.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
Bought all the stock out of Big W in Townsville and drove home again for another bloody 4 hours and heat pressed bloody these chairs with this logo. And the customer got their chairs, and those chairs cost me, I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds. Like a few $100 job probably cost me $1,000. But the customer got their product, and the customer's been back since.
And exactly, the customer saw you fix a bad situation, and that's worth more than the cost of traveling up the road for 4 hours and back, and losing money on the job because they've come back. And that's, I think, one of the things that buying online from a DTG company or some other kind of company that you can't interface with, right? If you have an issue, with Vistaprint, who do you phone? They're a Netherlands company. Well, they're obviously doing stuff here. Being able to actually go and actually see the printer, the businessman, and actually
Yeah.
say, yeah, okay, this isn't what we were looking for, and have that person fix that problem is worth its weight in gold, because they'll come
Oh, in a
back.
small town, this
Yeah,
very much so. Like they would have told the story, it was a funny story. So they would, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
small town word gets around. So
yeah,
there's only one way to deal with people in a small place, and that's do the right thing
yeah,
and produce a good product. And that's what I strive for.
yeah. No, that's
So,
great.
so
All
that's
right,
the advice I give you.
that's brilliant advice. I'd love to catch up, or perhaps we'd love to catch up with you again in a year or something and see well what changes you've made and how you've grown and everything. But I wanted to say, without hopefully sounding in any way cliched, to go from C unit to Shed 76, that's one of the most inspiring stories I've heard. And yeah, you
Mm.
should be super, super pumped with it, mate. It's really encouraging. And I don't know if I'll ever be up Atherton Way, but I'd love to come and see you if I am. There's been a few people in Queensland that I've been connecting with lately, so maybe I can organise a road trip. But if you're ever down this way, or I guess in Toowoomba, I don't know if you come down to the
I've got
dark
to get a
side to
permit
New
to
South.
go. I've got to get a permit to go to New South Wales.
Oh right, okay. I'll meet you at the border.
I still need a permit.
Okay.
But I went to Melbourne start of the year for an art exhibition. I had art in an exhibition down there. And yeah, that was a 2-day trip of selling screen print acrylic for artwork.
Yeah. Wow.
And I had 3 pieces in an exhibition down there, and I was down there trying to push my art for 2 days, and I found a shirt shop down there who's interested in my brand of. I've got different strands of shirt designs I do, and some are fairly hard graphic imagery. And I found a shop down there that is very interested. So I'm sourcing Australian-made shirts from Melbourne at $17 a shirt,
Wow.
but they're retailing their shirts from $80 to $100.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like fairly high-end shirt. And he's very interested in my artwork. So I'm working on that, but not as quickly as I'd like to be.
That's amazing.
So more trips to Melbourne, maybe, and maybe a trip. I've got family in Kyogle actually, so I've got grounds to get a trip
Yeah.
to Armadale.
Yeah. We'd love to see you for sure.
Yeah.
But for now, thanks, mate. Thanks for sharing your story. It's like I said, it's genuinely inspiring. Really, really inspiring. And I hope that listeners, well, I know that listeners will enjoy hearing that. But thanks for coming on the show. Get back to work. Go get that customer that came in. And
Yeah, go straight for that
I'm
shirt,
gonna
no pressure.
I'm going to watch a bit of rugby today, but I'll certainly avoid the hockey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got the hockey. It's a nasty game by the look of it.
All right.
No, that's awesome. Thanks very
All right.
much, Jason. Learned a
Yeah.
lot from your story.
Yeah, thanks, Josh and Sam. Like, I really appreciate your show. It's been great. I've listened to every episode, I think, and some of them twice. Like, Shannon's good. Shannon was good from the start. When I first started, I rang him up about the business, what I wanted to do, and he's helpful. And I owe him a shirt, actually. And yeah, so even Black Dog up there, when you talk to them, like, I listened to his story with great interest too. So I really appreciate your podcast.
Well, thanks. And yeah, like I say, we'll come back in a year or something and see what's going on. One crazy idea I had, and I just moot this stupidly at the end of a show, is to get a whole bunch of people together that we've chatted to and just get a chit chat at the end of the year or something prior to Christmas maybe, and see where everyone's at and what's been happening. Tell a few stories. Grab a beer, an online beer. But anyway, we'll see how we go with that. For now, Jason, thanks, man. Really good.
Thank you, Sam.
All right.
Thank you, Josh.
See you later.
We'll catch you
Cheers.
later.